Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you another in the series of 311 palette of the week, and today we are featuring the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. This palette has a number of just beautiful shades. You can just see we have colorful shades, we have neutral shades, we've got bright shades. So honestly, I've been working with this palette actually for the last 2 weeks because I just could not decide what looks I wanted to share with you. So I decided to try and incorporate kind of quadrants of this palette in each look. So along with the 3 eye looks, I also include the blush and highlighter and then my lip color combination as well, because I think the cheeks and the lips can sometimes really help bring a look all together. So if you need some new inspiration for your Born to Run palette, or if you have palettes with similar shades, which I'm sure you do in your collection, then pull out your eyeshadows and let's go ahead and jump into the first look. To start off this first look, I did already apply the Smashbox 24-hour eyeshadow primer, and now going to our palette, I'm going to start with a Morphe M208, and I'm going to do a little bit of Weekender and then just a touch of Breakaway. Now going in with the Morphe M504, I'm going to go in with Still Shot. And I want this to be just kind of a sheer wash here. I'm going to use this to help tone down the next shade that we're going to put in the crease. Next, on a Morphe M433, I'm going to go in now with the shade Baja. And this is such a pretty shade. A little bit goes a long way. You can see that pigment there. And as I get up towards the top of the crease, I'm really just lightly, barely touching the skin with that brush. And then I'm going to kind of create just this little bit of a halo here with this shade. Wipe off that brush really well, and now we're going to go in with the shade right here, and we're going to stay on that same brush, and what we're going to do is we are going to place this just on the inside. So we're not going to take this beyond that orange, we're going to take it more on the inside of that orange, and it's going to create this kind of pink and then shifting and shading out into that orange and that pale coral color. Then I'm going to shift down to a smaller brush. This is the M506 from Morphe, and a little more of that same shade. And I'm going to just place this right here in the deepest part of the corner. And if you don't have a corner there, just place it where you want that corner to be, where your crease should be. And then go back with your M504 or your fluffy blending brush and a little more of Still Shot just around the outside edge, because again, we want this to be a nice gradient. We don't want it to get all muddy, so we want all of the colors to look distinct, but we do want the edges nice and soft. And then we'll probably do some more blending, but let's do our liner and our lid shade first. So for liner, I'm going to use, this is one from Maybelline. This was a limited edition one, but just pick up any black eyeliner, and it needs to be a little bit softer. So I'm just going to place this close to the lashes and ever so slightly I'm making it just a tiny bit thicker here in the outer corner. And I'm going to take, this is just a thin, small shader brush from Sedona Lace. This is the EB21. And I am just going to lightly soften the edge of that black pencil. We're going to go over the top of this with shadow, but you don't want it to be a super harsh line there. Staying with that same brush, now I'm going to go in with this shade right here. It's called Punk. And this is a really pretty kind of plummy brown. Has slight little hints of some reddish purple color. I just like it paired with the other shades we have going on. And you can see I only took that shade about just a little bit above my actual lash line. So I'm not taking this into the crease or anything, just providing a nice bit of depth there in the outer corner. And then going back with the M506 and a little more of this deep reddish shade here, we'll go right over the top of that. And then clean off your Morphe M433 and go back with just a tiny little bit of Baja around the edge. For the inner part of the lid, you can see I've already done it on this eye. So we're gonna first start with a flat shader brush. This is the E60 from Sigma. I'm gonna first do a little bit of breakaway. And this is just going to brighten the inner corner. Take this about a third of the way across. And then you can flip that brush over, and now we're gonna go in with this one that has a little bit of a pink shift. So we're gonna just continue to build that up a little bit. And the duochrome aspect of this shadow is very, very subtle. So just when the light catches it, you can pick up a hint of some pink there. So build that up. And then I'm going to wipe that brush off and go in with just a touch of Stranded. So this is a little gold, and I'm just going to lightly dust this here to kind of blend it towards the inner part of the crease. Still staying on the lid, but just kind of makes a nice little, I think, transition there. Now, where that shimmer shade intersects with our outer bright color here, we're gonna go in with a tiny little bit of this on the Morphe M506 and just lightly blend the edge of those two shadows. Then if you need to, go back with your little brush and a little more Punk and just work this into your lashes. And then sometimes I just like to take my Morphe M433, the one that we used for our crease, and just kind of lightly dust the center. And it just, I think, helps kind of bring all these colors together. For the lower lash line, I'm going to use, this is a relatively new pencil to me. It's from Almay, and they did a great job with this liner. It's the Gel Smooth Liner Metallics, and it is the shade, what is the shade? Rouge Awakening. And it is waterproof, and it stays very well on the eyes. I've not used it in the waterline, but I do really like it on the lash line. And this is just a really pretty kind of reddish metallic shade. Has a little hint of some, I would say little bits. It's more on the pinky red. It's not the orangey red. So kind of like a red plum shade. It's real pretty. I'll use a flat shader brush. This is the Morphe M432, and just top it with a tiny little bit of the shade right close to the lashes, just pressing that into the roots of the lashes. And then I'll take that same brush and a little bit of Still Shot and a touch of Baja. Now it's time to clean up under the eyes, add mascara, and I'll be right back and we'll finish up with inner corner highlight, cheeks, and lips. So I finished up my mascara, applied some bronzer, fixed my hair, but I wanted to show you for my lower lash line, I did a little something different. I used this burgundy mascara from L'Oreal, and it's so subtle that you really can hardly tell unless you're looking for it, but I actually kind of like that. So now for cheeks and lips, I'm going to start with lips because I'm going to use a bold color on the lips, and I want to do that first and then see how much blush we need. So I had a request recently to show how I use the paint pot around the edge of the lips, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to take this pointed brush from Sedona Lace. What is this? This is the 324. And I'm just going to place this around the edge and blend it down slightly into my makeup. And you do want to make sure you don't get too much of this on your actual lips because it can be drying. So just use it around the edge, and this will help keep your lipstick and lip liner in place and keep it from bleeding. Then go in with your lip liner. I'm using the NYX Suede lip liner in the shade Toulouse. And this is just a pretty kind of neutral mid-tone, I would say mauve pink shade. Now, even though this lip liner is a little bit lighter than the lipstick I'm using, I wanted something with more pink tones rather than orange tones because the lipstick that I'm using is this one. And this is from the Bare Minerals Luxe Shine lipstick line, and this is the shade Elite. And depending on what lip liner you use with this, it can bring out a different tone of the lipstick. So I want to keep it kind of more in the pink realm. I'm going to start off with MAC Peaches, and you can see I'm kind of trying to tie in the eyes with what we have on the cheeks and the lips. So this is going to tie in what we have going around the edge of the eyes. You don't want something to compete because we've got quite a bit of drama on the eyes and the lips. Then for just a little bit of glow over that, we're going to try this. This is the Thrive Cosmetics blush in the shade Rosy, and I'm using the Sigma Duster, Spotlight Duster, the F37, and just going to fluff this right on the tops of the cheeks. And last but not least, I haven't forgotten, we need inner corner highlight. So I'm going to go back in with Breakaway, and this is a Sigma E30. And just going to place a little bit of this here just for a little added brightness. And then I'm going to take just a touch more of that again right here under the brow. Here's our finished look. And I personally just love the combination of those deep fuchsia colors with the orange. It kind of looks like a sunset on your eyes. You could pare down the lip color, use something more neutral, but you know, just wanted to give you a different option. All right, now let's go on to look number 2. For today's look, I'm going to start off with the Urban Decay Primer Potion in the shade Fix because I want a little extra coverage on my lid space here. Cover all those veins. And then something that I don't always do, but because I want these bright colors to be a little sheerer, I'm going to set that primer with just a little translucent powder. This is the Kat Von D Lock-It setting powder. And you can use whatever translucent powder you have. All right, so going into our palette, I'm going to start with this shade right here. It's a Weekender, and it's really the only lighter shade, but it still has, it's more of a beigey nude shade, but I'm going to use a little bit of this first along the brow bone, and then just tap a little tiny bit into Breakaway and put this right under the arch of the brow. For the crease, I'm going to go in with this peachy shade called Still Shot, and I'm using a slightly skinnier blending brush. This is the Sigma E40 because I don't want this color to get everywhere. I'm really tapping off. I just want this to be lightly above the crease. And we just want a faint hint of this above the colors we're going to use on the lid. Okay, so now for the color of this look. We are going into this section right here. I know, don't be afraid. I filmed this once before and I'm refilming it because I want it to be a little less dramatic than the first time I did this look. So I'm going in with a fluffy brush. This is just a Wet n Wild 99-cent brush. And I'm gonna go in first with this turquoise shade. And this shadow is pretty pigmented. So I'm pressing my brush in and then I'm gonna tap off. And I'm just going to put this on the lid and almost buff it in. So rather than packing on this color full on, I'm doing more of a turquoise wash. So I'm hoping this will look a little more watercolor-ish rather than like I painted with oil paints. And I think that turquoise and peach are just a beautiful pair together. So that's why we went in the crease with the peach. And I'm just, again, very lightly blending this onto the lid. So it's easier to build, it's harder to take away. And I took it all over the lid, but I stayed out of the outermost corner and the innermost corner. Okay, and using that same brush, just the outer edge of it, I'm going to tap, I mean, just barely into this shade called Radio. I don't think I told you that turquoise shade was Big Sky. So now going in with the one right next to it, which is a shimmery blue, and I am just tapping this very, very lightly on the outer corner. I'm not bringing it into the crease. I'm just going to tap a tiny little bit of this green. It's called Wanderlust, and I'm using a Morphe M506. So you really want a tiny little brush for this, tapping off the excess. And I'm just tapping this right into the actual corner. And that's about it. So this is just going to be a tiny little bit of depth right there in the corner. And then you can go back with the Wet n Wild brush that you used for the blue and just tap those together. Now I'm going to go back with my blender brush and a little more of this still shot. So I think our crease can handle a little more peach. So going to build that up just slightly. And now to finish out the outer corner, like what I've done over here, I'm going to take this tiny little pencil brush. This is the 904 from Sedona Lace. We're going to go in with just tiny little bits of the shade Jet. And I'm placing it right at the lash line in the corner and blending down and towards the center. Just keep this color really low. And then as we go around the edge, I'm going to pull it up just slightly towards the brow. And this is going to be kind of like our boundary on the outer edge for all these crazy colors. And then when you get towards the crease, you can see I'm just kind of flicking that brush just in a little tiny bit. And then we'll blend that corner in a moment. And then just wipe off that brush really well. And we're just going to blend softly right in this outer crease. And then wiping off that 506 really well, gonna go back in with Still Shot. And I just want to intensify this peachy color right here on the edge. And you just want to be careful because you don't want it to blend too much into those colors, because then it will make everything look muddy. So that's why I've gone down to a super small brush. If you have another one, use that. Otherwise, you can just clean it off really well and then go in right around this edge. Let's go ahead and do the lower lash line and our liner, and then we'll see if we need to add any more. So on the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with the Urban Decay 24/7 pencil in Mainline. This is really a pretty color. I don't use it enough. I'm just going to place this just on the outer third. I'm not even going to bring it all the way in because I want room to blend. And then I'm going to take an e.l.f. smudge brush and go in with that color Big Sky and lightly brush this along the lower lash line and bringing it about 3/4 of the way across. And then here in the outer corner, you can see because I have a fold there in my eye, I have this corner that shadow gets lost in. So I'm just making sure I really press some shadow in there. I'm going to line the upper rim. This is the Tarte Man Eater eyeliner, and it is super black. So I'm going to use this here on my my tight line. In the lower rim, I'm going to use the NYX Faux Whites in Linen, and this is a pinky white shade, so it's not stark white. Before addressing the inner corner, I'm going to go ahead and clean up under the eye, curl my lashes, apply mascara, and then I'll be right back. All right, now let's add some inner corner highlight. I'm going to go in with the shade Breakaway, and this is a Sigma E30. And I'm going to first place this here on the inner corner, and then I'm going to dust just a tiny little bit of this towards the center of the lid, just a little bit. And it just adds a little extra brightness there. For blush, I'm going to use a peach blush to kind of go along with what we have going on in the crease. So this is the one by Flower Beauty, and it's the shade Peach Primrose. And by putting it up, you can see it doesn't really distract from the eyes, it just complements it. So when you're doing a dramatic eye look, I think that helps if you can keep the rest of the face, the lips and the cheeks, a little more monochromatic. And these blushes are really nice. They're very pigmented. I'm using the E4 from Morphe to apply that blush. For highlighter, I was going back and forth between two, but I think I decided to go with this one. It's a little cooler leaning. This is from Maybelline Master Chrome, and this is the shade 250. This is the one they did in partnership with Nikki Tutorials, and it is beautiful, but only a light amount is needed. So I'm using the Spotlight Duster brush from Sigma. This is the F37, and just going to place a little tiny bit of this on my cheeks. For lips, I went around the edge with the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot, and now for lip liner, I'm going to use the NYX Suede Lip Liner in Free Spirit, and this is a peach with just a hint of a little bit of brown. So as you can see, I brought that lip liner a little bit in from the outer edge. And now for lipstick, I'm using the MAC lipstick in Peach Blossom. All right, so I've styled my hair in this like really crazy do to go along with our crazy colors. But as you can see, it doesn't look as crazy and dramatic as you would have initially thought using those really bright colors. Just using them in that soft way on the lids, I think makes it much more wearable. All right, let's go on to look number 3. For this final look, we're gonna do something that is more bronzy and gold. with a little bit of brown, so a little more of a neutral look. I'm going to take the Morphe M208 and we're going to start again with Breakaway, and I'm going to just put just a thin line of this right along the brow bone. I'm not going to take this all the way down to my crease like I normally do, but I am going to take a little bit of it into the inner corner right here. For the top of the crease, I'm going to first start with the Morphe M504 and just a tiny little bit of Weekender, and just go right below that brow bone highlight. And this isn't going to show up much, but just give us something to blend into with our crease colors. And then take that same brush, and now we're going to go in with the shade next to it, which is Still Shot. Lightly building, gradually building this in the crease. And then out here in the outer corner, just really making sure to buff that in. Then I'm going to take a Sigma E25 and the next shade over, which is Riff. And we're going to put this right in the crease. And build that slightly here in the outer corner. And I'm going to go just a little bit lower than my outer corner here. So I'm going to actually put down a dark brown base. This is MAC's Constructivist Paint Pot. You can totally skip this. If you don't want quite as much depth out here, you can skip this and just go straight in with the shadow. But I just want a little extra definition here. So I'm going to first start with a cream base. You could use an eyeliner and smudge it out here in the outer corner. But I'm not going to take this in too far, but just enough to give our shadow something to cling to. Over the top of that cream base, I'm going to use this Luxe. It's a 213 eye shading brush. And it's just a flatter, slightly fluffy brush, but we're going to use this just to pack on a little bit of this dark brown shade. If you like a cooler tone look, go in with this shade right here, which is Good as Gone, but I like a little more warmth, a little more plum base, so I'm going to use the shade Punk. And it still shows up as brown, but it's not quite as cool tone as Good as Gone, so I just prefer this dark brown in the palette. And I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a V here. And again, just patting that shadow on. I am just staying right, here's the crease, and I'm not going to go any further with that. But then just take my brush here and gently blend it a little bit up. And then take that slightly through the outer part of the crease. And then I'll go back with my Sigma E25 and blend the top of that. And then I'm going to take just a touch of Punk and the shade above it, which is Baja. So Punk and Baja together, and we're just going to lightly dust this right around the edge of that other corner, and that will help make everything blend. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the M208, wipe off that brush and just add a little bit of Weekender right here, just to blend those crease shades kind of up here towards the brow. And then add a touch more of Breakaway, just right along the brow. For the lid shade, we're going to use this one right here, which is Stranded. And then once you have a good layer of gold down, we are going to now kind of bookend that color with two other shades. So first going to go in with the shade right here, which is Accelerate. And I'm going to use this here to blend that gold into the brown, because you can see it's kind of looking a little bit green, kind of takes on a green tint. So I'm going to knock that down a little bit and just take a little bit of that Accelerate right in between those shades. And then clean off that brush really well, and now we're going to go in with Breakaway and use this to just brighten this inner part of the lid here. Along the lower lash line, I'm going to use the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Pencil in Smog. This is just kind of a bronzy gold shade. And I'm going to use this right on about halfway across the lower lash line. And then just as always, take my finger and blend it in. And if you like those cooler tones, go over the top of that with the shade Smog in the palette. But I'm going to keep this just slightly warmer, so I'm going to go over it with Accelerate. And just warm up that lower lash line just a little bit. So I started about right here. I'm not taking that all the way out. And then in the outer corner, I'm going to do just a touch of Punk right at the lash line right here. I'm just going to take that brush and find the lower part of my lash line, relax my eye, and just stamp it right there. And that's just going to give me just a subtle little hint of the direction of where I want my wing to go. Now, I'm not going to wing it way out today, just a little bit of a flick, but that kind of can be your guideline, because sometimes if you start your flick up too high and you have a fold like I do, it'll be like a little bit of line here and nothing in between. So that's why sometimes you have to go a little lower than you might think. I'm going to go back and just intensify that outer corner just a little bit, a little more Punk just right here. And then I'm going to take this tiny little angle brush from Real Techniques. It's called the Definer brush. And we're going to now take Punk, and we are going to just stamp this right into the lashes of the upper lash line. And I always just like to start halfway across, go towards the outer corner first, and then we'll go back and do the inner corner part. And then one final step with shadow before I add a liquid liner. I'm going to take this e.l.f. smudge brush and a little bit of, let's see, Baja, and then maybe a little bit of Still Shot. So let's start with Baja. And I'm going to go right below, kind of connect this outer corner with what we have going on in the upper. So I'm creating kind of like this orange halo here. And I will clean up afterwards, and so I'll just kind of refine this edge a little bit. And then I'm going to take Still Shot on the inner part here and just lightly blend towards the inner corner. And if you are not a liquid liner girl, you can just go ahead and skip this step, but I'm going to go ahead. I just like to add a thin line. I'm testing this new one from NYX. It's called the Epic Ink Liner. You know I love the Kat Von D Mad Max Brown Liner, but I think this might be a close dupe. So this is the shade Brown, very creative color name. But I'm going to just take this really close to the lashes here from the inner corner, not quite to the corner, but almost. And I just lay that pin right into the top of my lashes and just lightly drag out. And then when I get here to the outer corner, I give it a good shake, because this one does have a shaker, very important quality. And then I turn the liner this way, and like I said, I'm just doing a little flick. So we're going to follow kind of that little shadow we have going on right there, and we are just going to stop right at the edge there. And then drag the pen back towards the center. And then connect it, and there we go. Okay, so as you can see, fixed my hair, applied concealer, mascara, bronzer, all that good stuff. And something I like to do is actually put on the top that I'm gonna be wearing for the day, sometimes before I choose my cheek color and my lip color, because sometimes it can change my decision. So I've decided to go in with Canteloupe. This is by MAC, and I'm gonna use the E4 from Morphe. And this, I feel like, is the perfect mix of just a little bit of peach, but a little coral too. So it kind of works well with my tan skin and with the top that I'm wearing today. For highlighter, I want more of a golden glow. So this is by Juvia's Place, and I'll put the shade name, I'll annotate it here on the screen. But it is a loose highlighter, and when I first got this, I almost took it right back to the store because I swatched it on my skin, and you can see it's super gold. But what I found is if you buff this into the skin, it creates this just beautiful, so you can see that initial swipe is like, what? And however, you buff it into the skin, it becomes this beautiful, almost like wet gold cheek. So initially it looks like it's going to be really sparkly and chunky glitter, but you definitely just keep buffing it into the skin and it does something magical. And then just to kind of top that off, I'm gonna go in with the Laura Mercier, I always forget what this is called, Matte Radiance highlighter. And I'm just gonna take that same brush and just go right here at the topmost part of the cheeks and use this down the bridge of the nose, Cupid's bow. And then I'm gonna go ahead and apply just a little bit of that on the inner corner. For lips, I decided, again, based on what I'm wearing, I kind of want to do a bronzy brown lip. You could do a nude, you could do a peachy pink, you could do a gold, you could do a lot of different lip looks depending on what your outfit is for the day. So I'm going to start off with the NYX lip liner in Nutmeg, and I did already apply my MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre around the edge. And for lip color, I pulled out an oldie but a goodie. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Paints in the shade 336 Liquid Venom. And this is just, it's a bold shade, but it's so pretty. And then just right in the center, I'm gonna highlight it with the NYX Cosmic Metals. Again, something I pulled out of the back of the drawer. This is in the shade Metropolitan Night. And I like this. This isn't really your standard gloss. It's a little more along the lines of lipstick. So you can kind of just place it and it won't like just continue spreading across your lips. And here's our finished look. Hopefully you enjoyed all three looks and that it maybe gave you some new inspiration for your Born to Run palette. As always, if you have any other palettes that you'd like to see me create looks with, please leave those in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.